afternoon, everybody. We're going to go ahead and get started. I see that there's some people still logging in, but we want to go ahead and get started in the interest of time because I know that Jackie has a lot of information to share. Welcome to day two, our first presentation of the day for our Stakeholder Integration Virtual Conference. And today we're going to have Jackie Aguilera from the Houston Center for Literacy, and she's going to be talking about working with businesses. I am Olga Escamilla, one of your hosts and moderator, and we also have Deborah Hargrove, she will be moderating the chat box. So I'm going to go ahead and go over some housekeeping, and then we'll get started. I think everybody's good with their audio, but this is some instructions in case you are not, but I think everybody's connected, so we'll go ahead and move on. In terms of our webinar best practices, we'd like for you to mute your phones at all times, and we'll be communicating via the chat pod, or if you'll raise your virtual hand. And remember to select everyone when you post your comments or questions in the chat pod, and I'll show you that shortly. For your certificate of attendance, you will receive your certificate of attendance via the AEL PD portal in your transcripts. And just a reminder that in order to receive attendance, it's a requirement that you have access to audio as you are logged in to the WebEx. And also, if you have anyone sitting with you, please let me know so that we can add them to the roster and they can get attendance credit. We just need to make sure that they are registered for the session. To expand your view for the webinar screen, so if you're looking at your screen and you think it looks kind of small, you can use the diagonal arrows, and that'll make your screen full screen so you can see what's being presented a little bit better. And then again, respond to everyone in the chat pod, so you have your participant list and your chat box. So if you click on the chat box, that'll open up at the bottom of the screen. You see that? And on the send to, you want to make sure to select the down arrow and manually change it to everyone. So make sure that you're sending your chats to everyone, or your questions for the session. So again, today our presenter is Jackie Aguilera. Jackie has a master's degree, and she currently serves as the director of AEL for the Houston Center for Literacy. She has over 30 years of service that includes financial education, workforce readiness, and literacy provider training. She's a first-generation college graduate, and her motto is, education is the key to social development, achievement, and success. So welcome, Jackie. And if anyone has any questions, please type them now in the chat pod. Otherwise, we will get started with the presentation.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's good to be with you all. I want to welcome you to this afternoon's discussion where we're going to explore our ability to create efficient and productive partnerships with employers. I'm very excited to be able to have this presentation with you. I think we have a lot of experience to share, and I hope that it will be very beneficial to your programs. On this first slide, I just want to briefly take a look at some of the pictures. These are some of the people that we serve, various industries, from those who are studying to be electricians to those working in professional janitorial services at airports, and then hotels. So there are a lot of industries here that we're going to touch on and actually discuss the engagement process and help you guys formulate a plan to meet the need to connect with our employers. This is a little bit more about myself, and as Olga mentioned earlier, I am the Director of Adult Education and also of English at Work, which is a program that we will get into, especially for contextualization for our employers. The picture you see here is at the HEB bakery plant that's located here in Houston. And again, this is part of the employer engagement process, that the involvement that you can have when you're developing those partnerships. The first thing that I want to get to with everyone is our being here. And we want to examine the engagement strategy between literacy providers and employer stakeholders. It's a fancy way of saying let's learn how to develop a relationship, and that way, we can be productive with each other. Interesting question, Deborah, that popped up there. I like that. With the bakery, and we'll talk about the advantages of the employers making our relationships and things we could do for our organizations. I'll mention that briefly as we go along. The outcomes here, if we walk through this process together, I want to get to exploring employer-based literacy services models, beginning a basic employer engagement strategy, and of course developing tools for maintaining and expanding employer services. As we have gone into this journey with the Texas Workforce Commission, we are more and more engaging with employers and exploring how we can best benefit from each other. We coexist in this community that we're building, and so again, this afternoon is about building those relationships and making them productive for our organizations. The first question that I would like you to consider is, who are you? Basically, you really need to look at your organization and examine its mission, its goals, and the career pathways that you want to build. And this is where the employer engagement fits in. First of all, when we looked at ourselves as the Houston Center for Literacy, we went all the way back to our original founding, which was as the Houston Reid Commission. That was in 1998, and at the time, there were a lot of points that they were looking at. I think it was best captured with this phrase, urban literacy crisis. The Houston Reid Commission, its programs were designed as a solution for what the mayor's office, which at the time was Mayor Kathy Whitmire, and the group of the founders looked at as trying to build a pathway to success for Houston and its community. We developed a dual system of provisions. So we supported providers in the area that were also giving direct services and forming a coalition voice that could advocate for adult education in the community. One of the sides of the house became our demonstration learning centers. As a commission from the mayor's office, we were invested in helping the community and community providers improve their services. So our learning centers became training centers. They were opportunities for innovations, piloting programs, and other providers could visit. We could develop different types of lesson plans and training so that providers could do their services at a higher level of quality. That was in coordination to demand. When we looked at demand, we are looking at, of course, traditional AEL, or adult education. That is where everything originated with high school equivalency classes, our traditional ESL classes, and of course then we started broadening out into the digital literacy and bridging the digital divide. As we have evolved into our training process, we developed our IET classes, those training programs, and again our intensives classes, and those include again the employer engagement. Our traditional model has been classroom-based, and so we were doing what most good organizations do. We build it, and then we ask them to come. Well, we discovered that there was also a need to expand what we were currently doing and actually to engage further. And we got into this decision to partner with Austin with a program called English at Work. What I want you to do now before I get into English at Work is, if you would, please, consider whether your organization currently provides site-based instruction. Site-based would be that model that we're talking about, going to the employer instead of the employer coming to us. If your organization does provide a site-based instruction model, then with which employers are you currently engaged? This started out with Houston Center for Literacy in 2007 Chronicle, and And at the time, they were needing, for safety reasons, the team that was working in the print shop to improve their English skills so that they could work more safely. The safety managers could directly train, and then, of course, have a better and safer environment. Everyone was working at a more productive pace and working together as a team. This was our first experience with this site-based idea. 3 years ago, we partnered with Austin, with LCCT, who had developed the curriculum called English at Work. For this particular prompt, you guys, if you'll use your chat box, and if you could answer that question about whether your organization does currently provide site-based instruction. The answer is no. That's an easy one. But then, of course, if it does, if you know the employers, please share that, and if not, just go ahead and share that you don't quite know which employers, but that you do the site-based. The difference on site-based instruction and when we got involved with English at Work was not only providing contextualized instruction, but customized instruction. And this is where we start looking at our employers and what their needs are. This is different. We usually have gone from a student-driven model where we take a look at what are our students' needs, and then we try and provide for those students and what they are asking for. In our new examination of how we relate to our employers is that we are employer-driven and employee-focused. What that means is we have to assess what our employers need. So we're going to have to engage them in ways that perhaps we haven't in the past and find out exactly what the opportunities are. This is going to allow us to actually build and actually have a customized relationship with the employers that focuses on the particular team. With English at Work, we were able to go out into the community, and I think that was one of the most beneficial outcomes for English at Work, because for years, again, Houston Center for Literacy had been around since 1998. We went out into the business community, and they had never heard of us. They had no idea what Houston Read was or Houston Center for Literacy in certain industries. And here we were surrounded by all these businesses and all these opportunities to provide services, and they had no idea about who or what we did. This type of customization, this type of employer engagement is a marketing piece. It is really an opportunity to make those connections and relationships. So you find out what your employers need, you find out what their employees are focused on in order to create an environment where they can improve and actually provide better customer service and to get a return on investment. As we go into the different industries, and you guys have answered, thank you. Those of you who have been able to answer if your organizations do engage in worksite and your employers. Based on the experiences, I want you guys to further think about what do you think are the top industries in Texas. When you're going to consider employer engagement and going into a customized curriculum, one of the first things you want to do is, of course, do your research. It does no good to provide a brilliantly executed, customized curriculum when there is no demand in the industry. And I think a lot of our training, the trainings and directions that we have received recently especially, are calling for us to make the connections between what is in demand. We have our high demand and high growth populations and opportunities for those connections so that we can create those pathways. And so off the top of your head, based on your experience, based on what your view is, what do you think are the top industries in Texas? There are various studies out there, and we're going to take a look at some of those industries, and we'll see what exactly we hit on. Healthcare, all right, healthcare is on two different lists. Transportation, excellent. Hospitality, food service, HVAC. Oh, yes, and well, we are in Texas, absolutely. Healthcare, thank you. Construction, fantastic. To touch on a lot of industries there that have made, actually, I did a little research on several lists, and there are some common denominators there: trade and transportation, professional and business sector, education and health, leisure and hospitality, manufacturing, financial with banking, construction, energy, and of course information and technology. So we are on a roll. The process of looking at who are you, finding your mission, finding out what you do. Now looking at the industry, because what you want to do is find a match. You want something that is going to connect what you currently do and expand into a logical area. So we need to find out who are these employers. Knowing the biggest industries, knowing what the demand is very important. So we have to ask now, who are they? Who are the employers? Second thing is, what do they need? Remember, we're focusing on employer-driven. So, of course, the final question is, how can your services help? And again, we're trying to develop this customization so that we can take what is usually a generally contextualized curriculum and make it personal for each industry. This particular photo here was taken at Gallery Furniture, and this is commonly known as Mattress Mac. He is one of our great business leaders here in Houston, very generous with Houston and giving back. He was a major source of shelter and support during Hurricane Harvey. And he looked at his team, he looked at his customer service, and he found that a lot of his team members were being held back because of language opportunities. And he had reached out to the Houston Center for Literacy, and we were able to start negotiating and getting some classes in place so that we could help boost his team. But again, this involves a search. Now, I'll tell you guys about your marketing presence on the web, and I really want to insert that in right now. Your social media, your website is so important. One of the ways that we're finding a lot of companies are reaching out to the Houston Center for Literacy, they are Googling English classes. They are Googling, improvements for their teams, whatever they're needing. English for employees. And one of the things that's coming up is Houston Center for Literacy. We're finding a lot of these guys are saying, hey, I looked up English classes for hotel, English classes for customer service, and you guys are on the front page. So if you are not directly involved with your social media presence, with your web presence, please make sure that you do get with your IT guys, get with those who are handling your marketing, get them the most latest information you have. Make sure you're looking at your websites, looking at your Facebook pages, your social media pages, so that you know what your presence is, because they are using these tools, and it's very important. All right, so let's look at who are they. Those of you guys who mentioned construction, here it is. Construction industry, projected to grow by 27.8% between the years of, they started looking at 2014 and 2024. If we look at construction, we had that little weather event called Harvey. That actually has turned a lot around and actually cost about $80 billion of damage here in Houston, and gave birth to a movement called Rebuild Houston, which is led by Mayor Turner. It is going to create 70,000 jobs in this year alone, and they're looking at a 3 to 5 year plan for construction. One of the things you want to look at when you're considering employer engagement, when you're looking at developing your IET programs, when you're wanting to develop your customized lessons, look at the occupations and their growth. Again, we're talking about high wage, high growth. I like this particular set of statistics because it gives us short-term and long-term that we can take a look at. The website on the previous slide is where you can access this document. If you take a look at these stats, and this is something that I really want to emphasize that we have put into practice, is not only looking at the statistics, but then again, connecting it to your program. If you have your classes, if you have your goals, your mission, what parts of your current organization planning is connected with some of these particular industries? One of the grant writing seminars that I went to before really emphasized that if you take a look at what you currently offer and you can find a correlation to expand what you currently offer, you're going to have a greater rate of success and probability of financial support rather than starting over with something that is unrelated. So you take that same concept and you're looking at, okay, where does my organization fit? If we take a look at, for example, electricians, we're looking at a 6.8% growth. We look at that annual wage, that's looking at 45,000 in the short term. So if I'm looking at developing my IET program and I do not currently offer any type of certifications for electricians, that's something I might want to consider. We've got supervisors of construction trades and extraction workers. One of the things that is coming out of a lot of our trainings and coming from TWC is the idea of stackable certifications, that again, we're moving forward. It's not enough for us to get our customers, our clients, to get a certification, but remember, we're building pathways. And so we want those stackable models. When you're looking at supervisors, we can see a potential pathway to get someone an initial certification, but then we're also looking at the long term. If you're developing your lesson plans and you're developing your programs for the types of AEL, different types of English classes, what is the language of the supervisor? What is the language of higher management? And we want to remember to include that when we're doing our curriculum development and our planning. This slide shows you the long term, and again, you'll see some similarities. And again, same process. You want to take a look at the percentage for growth, relate it to your mission or your goals for your organization, and then look at how you can expand current programming or adopt new programming that fits in what your organization has in its foundations. And that will help make a natural progression. When you're going to sell your programs in your organization to an employer, it's much easier to sell it if it already has a relatable point that you can connect between yourself and that particular employer. Manufacturing. You guys brought up manufacturing in your comments. Thank you very much. And again, we're looking at what is happening in this particular field. Now, there is an increase in automation, and productivity has driven up manufacturing wages for, it says, 83 consecutive months, according to our Dallas Fed's monthly manufacturing outlook survey. This is important to note because, again, we look at this next point, the increase in demand for higher skilled employees. So we're going from the idea of our traditional manufacturing, where a lot of times we think of the assembly line, and we're looking at, again, higher skills because we're incorporating technology. We're looking at the automation of manufacturing. So again, when you're going to consider developing your IETs, when you're going to consider developing, expanding your contextualized ESL programs, what is the language of the employment possibilities down the road beyond entry level, or the change in that particular industry? Here, we're noting that it's going to automation. So our guys are going to have digital literacy skills. They're going to have to know the language of technology for this particular industry. And how can we find that out? We can do research and we can look at things on Google, but the best way to do that is to engage an employer. You're getting the actual needs right away. If this particular industry, let's say Toyota, is going to be hiring a group of employees, what is it that they're looking for? What is the language? What is the experience? What are the skills that those particular potential employees need in order to be hired. And the best place to get those answers, again, is directly with the employer. So curriculum development now becomes a part of employer engagement. Again, you've got the short term and the long term. Here we've got high growth, 28.2% in industrial machinery mechanics. Again, looking at repair, what is going to be the language? What's the certification? What are the opportunities? And again, building your programs for your contextualization, and then branching off into your IETs. Healthcare, you guys brought up healthcare, and here we go. The consistent need for nurses drives occupational demand. Talking about, according to Help Wanted Online, the industry postings are up 2.3%. We've got our healthcare opportunities. We're looking at certification classes as well as our preparation for our ESL students, as well as contextualized ESL. Making partnerships with hospitals, making partnerships with the industries that are using those particular needs. We look at this particular short-term chart, and we're taking a look. Let's see, speech-language pathologists is 7.4% growth. I'm also looking at physical therapists. So again, when you're considering what you're going to offer as IETs, as particular classes that you want to develop, and partnerships for employers, how you're going to engage. If you look at office clerks in general, we do a lot of general office certification. And, you know, again, we have to consider, is this a stackable? Is this a future? Or is this something that we're just getting someone a foot in the door? And what is really the demand? If we look at the long term, we have our highest percentages are for registered nurses and then general and operations managers. Again, we can start identifying career pathways. A lot of us involved with TWC grants are engaging with career navigators and having those guys be a part of our process now, because again, it's about the career pathways, and it's about developing a clear journey for employment and advancement. So again, when you're looking at the industries, look at the pathway possibilities. And when you go to employers, you can ask those employers about their particular venues. If someone comes in as a general support staff, what is the potential for them to grow? Because again, in adult education, we're being expected to provide opportunities for growth. One of the main things, we are in Texas, besides it being hot and us needing HVAC technicians, we also talk about oil and gas. And again, this is determining demand in Texas. One of the industries that really moves us and what we're known for is our oil and gas, the energy corridor. If we take a look at what the demand is on the short term, they really, on this particular chart, were limited as far as what they were providing on the growth on both of these charts. But I'm taking a look at the long term. In particular, of note are dredge operators, and then it breaks down into cartographers and photogrammetrists. We've got lawyers up there, which is only a 1.1% growth. At one time, that was a very popular industry. Go into oil and gas, be an oil and gas lawyer, and we can see some changes here. But if you're going to an energy company, finding out what are the opportunities there, again, those particular pathways that you might be able to offer. Retail, large industry. Again, one of the challenges here, and this is very typical of what we usually go to when we're talking about employers and careers, we're dealing with, of course, low wages a lot of times, and that becomes a challenge. However, it's definitely a possibility to explore career pathways, as many of the retail industries are looking at not only entry level, but then they're looking at their shift managers, they're looking at their customer service managers, of course, assistant managers and store managers. So again, going into retail, finding out not only what is the entry level, but then the pathway. We have opportunities to talk with stores like Walmart, Target, any type of retail situation, some of the larger retailers. A lot of those industries have persons who do not have a high school equivalency, and it's an opportunity to speak with them about how you could engage and actually formulate a class for those who are in need of high school equivalency lessons. We've actually, with the Marriott Post Oak, worked with them to develop the high school equivalency class opportunities that we can provide support for. So again, these opportunities come up to engage the employers to find out what their needs are. You take a look at their growth and what they have as a potential for pathways. Here we see cashiers, salespeople, stockers. A lot of our clients that we serve, a lot of our customers are going to come in as stockers or as cashiers. And again, what do we do to support a pathway? Asking that employer what is the probability, what is the process of a cashier working their way up to management. Going into retail, there are several other industries involved that you can examine and look at. And again, when you're looking at statistics, look for opportunities. What are the opportunities here that you can match up with your programs? You can reach out to an employer and actually let them know. We are aware that retail sales workers, supervisors is in demand. And, here I am at TJ Maxx, and I can ask, hey, your supervisor opportunities, what types of opportunities are there? What do you need out of your supervisors? And how can we help you train your workforce to become supervisors to advance in your company? They are always looking for training opportunities and people who can come in and provide those services. Those training dollars are there, and they are for the investment in their teams. Brought up earlier too, food services. Again, we have to feed everyone. What is of note here that I particularly like is they're seeing a lot of growth, likely due to the recent proliferation of food trucks. When we talk about populations and working with re-entry populations, a lot of times we see challenges. The food industry becomes an entry way. There are many companies like Cisco who are actually open to people who are in need of employment, who have perhaps difficulty being hired in other industries. But of note here is a food truck. Coming in and working for the traditional restaurant, this is a chance for entrepreneurship. This is a chance for small business. This is a chance for someone who may not be able to get a traditional employment but still have a possibility to an employment opportunity that will provide for their family. And again, what do we look at? What type of language is involved? What type of curriculum? Who do we talk to? There are a lot of industries that are available. There are a lot of opportunities to find out exactly what is in need. Reach out to the food trucks. What is at the requirement from the city, certifications, different types of employment opportunities. This is a great opportunity to partner with your small business associations, to look at your entrepreneur certifications, and then to reach out and work with Workforce Solutions and try and match types of programming that you can provide for certain skills, and then, of course, to be able to bridge opportunities for our populations that we are serving that may have those traditional challenges. Again, going back to the statistics, if we look at what's up here, our long-term, we have supervisors of food preparation, food service managers, head cooks. Again, how we can shape our curriculum and make it contextualized and go to an employer. We've worked with Johnny Carrabba's, and Johnny Carrabba's was really interested in flipping what they traditionally have done, which is they're usually just training their guys to provide good customer service. And Johnny Carrabba decided, you know what, we need to invest in our team. If we invest in our team, then they will provide better customer service. And we were fortunate enough to make that connection with them and start providing contextualized English at Work classes for their team members. And that produced a higher confidence level. And when you have an employee who has a greater confidence level, they perform better. They saw improvements in customer service, in the engagement with management, and just the ability of overall better guest service and opportunities. All of this gets you to this point. You've done your research, you've looked at your statistics, you've examined your own organization and your own offerings, and now looking at your employers, because who are you ready to work with? Places that you can go to help you. Get with your workforce solution offices. Use ONET Online. Look at your networks. Who do you do business with every day? Who do you call? Who do you engage with? Look at your local grocery stores. Again, the business community is all around us, and it's waiting for us to engage them. It's waiting for us to approach and say, you know what, we can help you. We're not asking you to come to us. We're actually coming to you. Look at your daily business partners and look for those opportunities. What are the opportunities you're looking for? Well, here we are with HEB. And again, we go back to identifying career pathways. HEB has a pathway, bagger, checker, manager in charge, and so forth. When we looked at HEB, we looked at where are the places that we can help? What are the opportunities? What can we bring to the table? And when we saw that HEB actually has this built-in system, this identifiable pathway, then we were able to come and talk to them and ask them, what do you need out of your partners? This it resulted in a good engagement that not only helped us do contextualized ESL classes, but we have now developed a hybrid model where we are doing digital literacy and EL civics for the bakery partners so that they can do the production schedules for their needs on their shifts. A lot of times the formulas on the Excel spreadsheets would not work properly. I'll blame it on user error, although we always blame the computer. But these guys were having to run to managers. They were losing production time because they just simply didn't know what to do. If the formula didn't work right, if they didn't plug something in right, they just had to stop. And so here it is, HEB came to us and said, hey, you guys, we have really done well with the contextualized English classes, English at Work. We have this issue now. And so we were able to marry that and expand our services so that now HEB is putting together a recognizable digital literacy certificate for those particular team members who are working in the bakery to show that they have achieved these skills. And again, now we're getting into what's called employer milestones. These are things that are important for the employer. Remember, we're employer driven, and we are also looking at meeting the employee's needs. So the identified need from HEB, they needed these guys to know Excel. They needed them to work independently so they could troubleshoot and problem solve, and bakery production would not be held up. So we worked with them and developed a whole new class. The benefits of communication and when you're working with your employer. Let them know that you are there to connect the team and the guests or the customers. Your terminology is going to change according to the employer that you engage with. It could be employees, partners, associates, and it could be customers, clients, or guests. Again, this is part of you getting to know your employer, learn the language of your employer. The more that you are familiar with them, they are open to discussion, and they know that you've done your homework, that you're actually interested in partnering and forming a good relationship. You want to think about the benefits and dividends of what you have to offer. If you're coming in, how is that business going to benefit? What are you bringing to the table? And more importantly, what are the results? What's going to happen not only to the business, but the employees? One of the things that they're going to look at, and what you want to look at, is an investment in the team and the outcome on production or customer service. You guys, remember when you go to an employer, identify an employer who wants to invest in their team. A lot of times you may go to an employer who says, yeah, these classes sound great, go ahead and do it, and then they're going to be hands-off. And that really is a disengagement. You want someone who actually wants to be interested in and is investing in the team members. They will tell you, hey, we're okay with providing incentives. We will pay for registration. We will provide iPads. We had McDaniel Metals had iPads for our digital learning component. And upon the completion of the course, let those particular employees have the iPads. And now we know not all employers can afford that, but this was just one of those times. In our hotel industries, there are opportunities for some of the employees to earn days off as a point system. So again, that investment, it's more than just, hey, come have a class with us. You want an employer who's going to provide motivation and support and help celebrate team member accomplishments. On your side, coming into an employer, remember this is a little bit different, especially if you're looking at working in hotel hospitality or you're engaging in restaurants or any type of professional business. First impressions still count. On your instructors, you want your instructors to have that contextualized framework as well. And make sure that they are getting into the industry standards. This is part of professional development. Let them know this is not the traditional classroom. This is in an industry. You want them to be familiar with the standards, knowledge, marketing, and image. Not only image of the company, but image of you. Remember that all of us, even though our mission and our purpose is people-driven, that we are offering a service. Our organizations are businesses. And when we go and approach the business sector, our image is very important. So again, going out, know your industry, dress to the industry. I have a totally different approach and look when I go to a hotel or when I go to an engineering consulting firm than I do when I go to HEB at the plant. And again, you know, it's just knowing your industry and your environment. This is some things, again, as you guys are planning. You're planning your engagement. I want you to consider, what does your organization have to offer? How does your organization meet employer-driven needs? Not the program you want to offer, but the program the employer wants you to offer. What are the milestones that your organization can help them achieve? And then finally, what are the dividends both the employer and the employee will obtain from your services? We're marketing ourselves, we are selling our product, and we are developing a customer service base. Remember that you're asking, what do they need in regards to employer performance, customer relations, and company values. Take the time to get to know your company. I sent a copy of this to Olga, and you guys will have access to this. This was developed by Austin when they first went into the English at Work program, and we adapted it for Houston Center for Literacy. This is an employer needs analysis. This will help you guys in your interview process. This will help you think about questions that you need to ask. You can actually give this to the employer ahead of time when meeting with them and have them send it back to you. You could take it with you and help it be a guide. You can use it when you are on the phone. Again, it's adaptable. It's an open document. I sent it in a Word document, so if you guys want to tweak it, please feel free to. Again, this is to help you get in the mindset of what your employer needs, and it also lets your employer know that you are really serious about investing in what they want as a customized program. The bottom line is return on investment, long-term impact on employees. You want to let your employers know that you're there to help build confidence, engagement, company loyalty, opportunities with the company, and family engagement. You guys, there is a social responsibility component to every large business and small business. They're interested, they know. Happy families make happy workers, and happy workers are safe, productive workers. So you want to include that part. These guys are going to want to talk to you because they're interested. Again, they know that their people are in need of providing for families, and in order to have that, they need to provide what they need for opportunities to grow. What's in it for your organization if you are examining site-based and you've got to sell this to whoever is the decision maker? Well, it's going to expand your service base. It is transition opportunities for you to take what you have to offer into the community and create career pathways. You will develop organization support. These are future funders. These are future people who give in kind that can have support for your different activities and events. These are potential new donors. You're building trust and service history within an industry. You are putting your name out there so that when people look at, you know what, I want an ESL program for my construction workers, and you know what, that ABCD organization over there, we have a relationship with them. Let's go ahead and call them up. That's what you want to have happen. Your basic strategy here is to assess your service area, reflect on your networks and contacts, and make the call. If they tell you no, it's okay, everybody. We all get a no. Put that person on the callback list, though. Never close the doors, because they might not realize they need you yet, but I guarantee something might come along later and they'll go, you know what, I was hoping you would call, or I was thinking about you. We've had that happen with a couple of employers, and so make your no list actually callback lists. Go with your yeses, then set your face-to-face meeting, get that interview, use that employer analysis form. Set your dates 4 weeks out and work backwards. So if you want your class to start, start in a month and then work back to the interview dates and your meeting dates. Remember, we have to take time to do orientation and registration, so that's all in the planning. And then, of course, customize together. You want to engage the employer, you want to engage the employees. This is a collaborative effort. The main key here for employer engagement is building a collaboration that is customized, contextualized, and has a return on investment for all involved. And I think that gets me to the point of questions. I know it's a lot, but I hope it really gets you guys in the framework of how to move forward and start developing those relationships.
Don't forget, folks, you could raise your hand or we can unmute you. Or you can type your questions in the chat pod.
And while we're waiting on that end, just an idea of the different industries when we're working with contextualize English, our IET programming, our high school equivalency opportunities. We started out 3 years ago with roughly 10 employers, and that has grown to roughly 25 currently. It ranges everything from professional janitorial services to our hotel industries that include the Marriott, Hyatt, Hilton, Sheraton, Westin, Doubletrees, Hilton Post Oak. We have restaurants that we're working with now, Tostada Regia. We are working with, of course, Johnny Carrabba's. We've expanded over to Pasadena ISD, Sutton Elementary, for some of their food service workers and parents who are needing to improve their language for work opportunities. I recently met with Paradigm Contractors, which is an engineering firm. And they have some brilliant talent, great guys. But again, we're talking about image. And this particular company is what, and I'm learning, this is exciting to you guys. When you go out to the employers, be prepared for your vocabulary base to just go to the outer limits, because you're going to learn so much. These guys are a boutique engineering firm. They only deal with high-end design. So in that, they are very concerned with their image, and part of that image is memos, reports, and emails. And they have recruited some awesome talent from all over the world, and when these guys sit down to write an email or a memo, all of that talent is lost on grammar and syntax. And so here it is, you know, the opportunity for these guys to sell, to create client relationships, to create business and be successful in their industry hinges on grammar and syntax. That's what we're doing. This is so important. The employer engagement, the employees, building lives, building opportunity. What we do makes and breaks the future economy of our families, our communities, and our business sector. And that's really what's at stake here. So I hope that you are more motivated to get out and more knowledgeable to engage your employers that are available to you. Take advantage of that community. Get to know yourselves. Find those fits. And don't be afraid of any no's. Remember, a no is just a call back later.
Jackie, we've got a couple of comments and accolades for you. Lorraine says, this is a great information. Thank you so much. Sharon says, each Workforce Solutions office also has a business services unit that you can use to, it's a great place to start. Brenda mentions, thank you for this great presentation. I will be encouraging our AEL staff to review this webinar when it's available on the portal. We appreciate the great ideas. And then, Olga, did you have, oh, it looks like someone came in privately. Do you have a special screening process for instructors?
So one of the things, that's an excellent question, and I'm going to tell you guys, remember you're dealing with business and employers, and some of our best instructors have some type of business background. There's just something about understanding the employment sector. So really, that's one of the things we look at is not only some type of transferable experience if someone's really coming out of left field, but then someone who has contextualized experience working with employers before or could have even had their own business. These are going to make your best instructors because the training level is different. They already get the aspect of employer-based need. And really, those guys are really our best instructors when it comes to the contextualized and employer site-based services.
Well, thank you so much, Jackie. Are there any other questions? We still have a little bit of time, and we would really like to take this opportunity to ask questions because Jackie has shared a lot of great information, and I'm sure she can continue sharing more. But we just want to know, field your questions if you have any, and we encourage you to send us your questions because we want to be able to tap into Jackie's expertise.
And quickly, I'll mention too, while you guys are considering questions, human resources, your HR departments are key. One of the things that you'll want to work with them and ask them directly is to provide vocabulary, documents, training, anything that is going on. Again, your curriculum is going to become a living curriculum. It will be constantly evolving. And what will help your instructor and what will make your class offerings more effective and productive is the relationship with the HR department, the relationship with the department heads. So one of the things that we ask employers to do is to help provide and contribute to the curriculum so that it can be, again, more applicable and immediately affect job performance in a positive way. Also, don't be afraid to use any distance learning opportunities that you have. We have a partnership with Burlington English who has been willing to customize different lessons that we need, but also there are various resources available through your local libraries. And again, the more opportunities to practice, the more opportunity there is for improvement. And again, to be able to provide those and work with the HR departments, those are going to be your really great partners to help make a successful program.
We have another private one coming in. Do any of these employers provide incentives to employees, and do employees get paid to attend the classes?
It depends on the employer. Now, one of the requirements you are going to want is incentives, whether that's coffee and donuts every morning or it could be on other ends. We have had employers who have reimbursed the team members who attend. Professional Janitorial Services is one of those employers that, based on the sign-in sheets, we send those in on a weekly basis, and then the employees are compensated. We've had some employers that will actually do a 50-50 split. So if it's a 2-hour class, they can't afford to pay them on the clock for both hours, but if the team member will come in and volunteer 1 hour, they will match another hour. The incentives are key. We have found that employers who don't provide incentives, those are the most challenging classes. And you really want employers who are invested in their people. So part of the statement of work that you make with your employer should include incentives, whatever that might mean for that employer. One of the, and lastly, I'll throw this in, there is a celebration at the end of your time, and make sure that you have that. A lot of these guys, when you're working on site, especially working with your contextualized ESL, have little to no accomplishments in their background as far as educationally. A lot of these guys have had to drop out of school. A lot of them have had disruptions. And so when you provide a celebration with the employer, they get recognition of the employer, but number two, to get a certificate that's acknowledged for, again, employer milestones. These are things that they've accomplished that are job related from the job, from your organization, is so meaningful. And for a lot of these guys, it becomes their example to their children. It becomes their modeling what the expectation is, and it's just meaningful, and it helps them feel confident and encouraged, and they're able to share that celebration with their employer and then with their family. And of course, it makes a really great connection with your organization, and you're able to expand and continue in more positive ways. It makes a big difference.
Thank you so much, Jackie. It looks like we're out of time. It's 2:01. I know we started a little bit late, but thank you so much for sharing. Thank you, everyone, for attending. And we'll be moving on to the next session.